London calling YouTube, London calling everyone. I am joined at the moment, if they'd like to introduce themselves, Old Vampire and James from YouTube.
Hello.
Hello.
And we are waiting for a couple more people, but we thought we'd make a start. This is kind of a warm-up round, shall we say, for the... Yes, welcome to the first episode of London After Midnight. And I'll explain. That's a missing silent horror movie that stars Lon Chaney Senior as a vampire, and with any luck you should be able to see a photo of one of the first movie vampires, and before they decided on what film vampire should look like, because they got a bit lazy after that. And Lon Chaney, who of course being a theatre actor did his own makeup, and he has rather like a shark, 2 rows of tiny but very, very sharp teeth. Well, you can imagine he could bite someone's head off, and then just drink straight from the neck. I don't know, but a missing gem. So I'm hoping to troll film buffs who will see videos called London After Midnight and think that they finally, after decades, found this missing classic horror film. But no, it's just me talking bollocks with my mates. So, yeah. But we're not starting on the main topics now, so I know, why don't we all talk a little bit about Christmas. I was thinking about how you always assume that the traditions of your own country are universal. Like in the UK we have, what James will know, Christmas pudding, which is made of figs and nuts and soaked in brandy, and your mum, you switch all the lights off and your mum sets fire to it and carries it in, and the room is lit only by a dessert on fire, which you then, and I don't know if anybody outside the UK actually sets desserts on fire on Christmas Day.
Not intentionally, I'd imagine.
Yeah, this is the first time I ever heard of it, and maybe that's what's wrong with our fruitcake in the States, is maybe it needs to be set on fire for it to be edible?
Perhaps.
Fire makes everything better.
So I think when I was younger, we didn't. My family generally didn't have the on fire Christmas puddings. For us, that's been quite a recent thing. Hello, Queenie.
Hello, Queenie.
Hello.
So we're now joined by Schizophrenic Queen. We were just talking about what we did for Christmas and setting food on fire.
Intentionally.
Yeah, they do it intentionally in the UK.
Alrighty.
So, how you been, Queenie?
I've been alright. How have you been?
I've been pretty good. I finally finished my interview with Watcher Azazel. And, you do know we're recording already, right?
Oh, well then I do now.
Okay.
So, yes, we have almost our full complement of desks. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip because I touched the desk just now. Guests, I meant. There were a full complement of desks as well, I hope. And, so maybe I should go in alphabetical order. Actually, I'll just go in the order that I can see you on the screen. So, Vamps, why don't you tell us... I think I can call you Tracy, can't I? Everyone knows you call Tracy.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us what your Christmas was like?
Okay, well, my last couple of Christmases have been pretty pleasant. I've been spending them with people that I like. I've been spending them with my kids. Christmases before that have been just a complete nightmare. I hated Christmas. I had to go spend them with my in-laws, my drunken in-laws. And, spending, an evening with them was pretty much what I think hell would be like.
I can imagine, yeah.
I had somebody just ask me what I had against Christmas because here's your Christmas cheer video. I said, well, it sounds like you got something against Christmas. What is it? And it's like, well, geez, seems like you took it kind of personally, but a lot of people don't like Christmas. And, sometimes they're seeing, oh, you're a Scrooge, you're a Grinch. But, the thing about Christmas is if something bad happened around Christmas, then every single year, every time the decorations go up, you've got a stark reminder of that
Yeah.
of that situation. And that's kind of, every time I see Christmas come around, that the stress of Christmas past comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And suicide, people get more suicidal during this time of year, so I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if you want to follow that cheerful note, James, how was your Christmas?
Yay!
Surprisingly pleasant. Pretty traditional for me. Went up to my granddad's, had my dad, my auntie, cousins there and stuff. Generally a pretty pleasant experience. Don't get to see my cousins that often. Did get into a slight argument. There was a slight argument regarding feminism, and I wasn't the one who started it.
Right.
Yeah. That's a long story, I don't want to be getting into that right now.
Right,
Perhaps later if it's time to chat about.
Now, Queenie, I should actually ask, how's the war on Christmas going, and where is the Halloween collab?
That's right.
I went to all the... Sorry.
I was going to say, I'm a lazy asshole, okay? Hey.
I feel sorry for my Halloween pumpkin Dalek.
I still have the video. I'm just a lazy bastard.
So we're going to have to wait until next Halloween, I think.
I'll do it when I do it.
Hey, we could always do it for Easter.
Aren't you even going to ask how my Christmas was? You're just going to be all like, I want the Halloween collab, Queenie, where is it? Don't make me get all like up in your grill and shit.
Well, I know that you're not a big fan of Christmas either, so... but yes, how was your Christmas, even though you're a Halloween person and you resent Christmas of bleeding into other holidays?
Well, it was a Tuesday.
That's true. I remember you wishing everyone a happy Tuesday.
Well, that's exactly what it was in my house, which it was just another Tuesday.
Oh, okay, fair enough. And, yes, well, Jesus was born on a Tuesday. It's well documented.
Then why don't we celebrate every Tuesday instead of just that one Tuesday of the fucking...
Don't encourage...
Don't give them ideas.
Well, geez, if it gets me more free shit, I don't care.
That's a good point. What's been everyone's favourite? We'll go backwards this time. So starting with actually, I can't answer this question. What favourite free shit did I think I now have nice new jeans that fit me. There you go. What's the favourite new... Oh, and a Doctor Who calendar. What's your favourite new shit this year, Queenie?
Well, I got a pair of leopard print pajamas the day after the apocalypse failed to happen.
Hooray!
Nice.
Uh-huh. Excellent. And James, favourite free shit this year?
Favourite free shit? You mean last year?
Oh, yes, sorry, last year, yes.
Yes, favourite free shit last year, that would have been, I got given a coat for free from the charity shop I'm volunteering at, and it would have been a few £100 new, so
wow.
That was pretty good.
Hooray. Okay. And I have a rough idea what answer Tracy might be giving to this one, but no, say whatever you like, Tracy. Favourite free shit last year?
Wireless mouse.
Oh, was that free?
Well, it was given to me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, it was. Ah, excellent. Yes. Is this your mini mouse?
Yes. It's about half the size of my regular mouse. And, the problem with it being wireless is that it's so much easier for me to lose. I can't follow the lead to it now. And it being smaller.
I've decided always buy things with different coloured cables, because that makes it easier to untangle. Why are so many wires black?
It's a conspiracy.
Why is so much electronics black?
Yes, it's no wonder that we get, all like, how the fuck do I untangle this? Where does this go? I don't know which thing to unplug because it's all... it's bad enough that everything I have runs through a USB, so I've got a USB adapter. So it's just insane the number of things I've got running. But I've got to so many mouses recently, and I'm currently using a Poundland one. That's the equivalent of the American 99-cent store.
You can get mice and Poundland?
You can, yes.
Why was I not informed of this?
It actually lasted longer and worked better than some of the more expensive ones I've bought. It's huge. I mean, it's more, bigger than a mouse. I mean, you'd have to. It's more of a, not quite a guinea pig, more of a. It's a hamster. It's actually is more or less the size of my fucking hand, but it does actually work pretty well compared. For a while, I had several mouses plugged in. One of which you could move the cursor with, and one of which the buttons worked. Just always alternating between the two, and then I went mad doing that, and I had to go to the only place really nearby. Pardon me, was Poundland, and actually I can recommend Poundland mouses. So there. And Tracy, I thought you were going to say my book.
Oh yeah, well I didn't get that for Christmas, but
too late.
But yeah, that was, I have to say that was my favorite. It was just I looked out on my foyer every day to see if it arrived, and finally it did.
It did. So yes, in fact, I'm joined by 3 people, 2 of whom are reading my book, and 1 of whom has finished my book, which is now available on Amazon, linked in the description.
And if you don't have a copy of his book, you are not one of the cool kids.
Exactly. And also, can I say, with Amazon, if you live in the UK, the delivery is free. So you're not spending any more than a tenner on that paperback. And, okay, so, I'll actually open the video to see what questions and suggested topics there were. And, if anybody in the room has any suggestions for things to talk about, any talking points. No?
No, I'm still thinking about mouses.
Nothing.
No, I was going to say one of the things I like about my Minnie Mouse is when I'm babysitting my granddaughter, I can hide it in my hand so she's not trying to grab it from me and accidentally false flagging everybody.
I shall call it Minnie Mouse.
Oh, that's the culprit.
Yeah, I apologize to everybody for that.
Excellent. It wasn't me, it wasn't the CIA or the FBI, it wasn't the Freemasons, it wasn't the bugs under Gloot's skin.
No, it was, my granddaughter playing with the
How old is she?
She's a year old now.
It wasn't me, it was the person who is too young to speak.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, she can't speak for herself, so it makes it easy to blame her.
Excellent. Well, at least that's one mystery solved. And I'm now looking through the comment section to decide which topic to bring up first. So, and on to the comment section. So, I have to dispel the persistent rumours that I will give up writing and arts in favour of a career in as a cage fighter. I personally think that I can moonlight and juggle both of those careers. But anyway, speaking of war-torn consumerism, Queenie?
I had a doctor's appointment today out of town, and my mom used it as an excuse to go to Lowe's. And we were in there, and she was trying to find some, like a bathtub fixture. And so I was trying to find somebody who could help us with that, but there didn't seem to be any employees in the area. I managed to flag down this guy who was pushing a cart to another part of the store, and he had called for somebody to come and help us out, but nobody really showed up. And I was waiting there for a while when I noticed that this other lady was waiting, and she was a shorter black woman with, like, short, wavy, voluptuous hair, and I just think she was really cute. And, so we're waiting there, and then I decide, well, you know, I'm going to talk to this chick. And so I walk up, and I was like, so you're waiting too, huh? And she's like, yeah, I've been trying to find somebody. I was like, well, I managed to flag a guy down, and he said he'd send help, but nobody's shown up. And, so we were kind of chatting for a bit, and then my mom comes up. She says she'd called my brother to ask him about it because he's been to plumbing school. And so there comes this moment where I have to leave this lady in the plumbing department in the Lowe's, and it's I don't know, like, it struck me as this, like, weird moment, like, you know, two people at a train station, and the train is coming, and only one person can get on the train, and you're kind of wondering if the person you're leaving behind is going to be okay. So, like, right before we leave, I turned back to this lady, like, right before we leave to go check out and stuff, I turned back to this lady, and I say, if I can find an associate, I'll send them back to help you. And then we just sort of left, but it was totally one of these weird moments in war-torn consumerism.
Aha! Yes, I like that story for the faintly lesbian undertone, and also best use of the term voluptuous I've ever heard. So, thank you. Yeah. Fantastic. And I'm trying to think, right, D Demon Witch wants to know how you fight a cage. Now, I only fight cages if they take the piss out of me, if they really, really annoy me. So does anybody else have an opinion on fighting cages?
We just have to know how to grapple.
Yeah, they're quite easy to grab hold of.
The closest I ever came to fighting a cage was fighting a monkey in a cage. Yeah, there was this little monkey in a shoe. Yeah, I don't know. There was a monkey in a cage in his shoe store. I don't know why. Anyways, but but yeah, he was a cute monkey in that, and I was standing next to his cage, and he was able to reach through, and he reached down in my pocket. I thought it was cute. I didn't think I had anything in my pocket, but I had taken a ring off and put it in my pocket, and he found it. Like, oh no, not my ring. And I tried to get it back from him, and man, that little monkey was strong. I really had to struggle to get it back. He was not happy. I did. I managed to wrestle it out of his little hands.
Are you sure this was a shoe store and not, I don't know, a zoo?
No, it was a shoe store. This was back in my childhood when there, when they didn't have, such strict laws about that kind of thing.
Hmm. You're lucky that monkey didn't bite you.
Yeah.
Sorry about
that. I just, wow. Okay, I'm hearing all sorts of things today that I did not expect. I think, James, do you have a story to top either of these two? I think, honestly, topping Tracy as a child fighting a caged monkey would be quite something.
I fought people in cages, but never monkeys. I think that story really does kind of take first place there.
Yay, for the win!
I haven't lived, honestly.
Yeah, you need to go to a Lowe's and have, lesbian undertones or something.
In a few years, you'll be telling that story to your grandkids, won't you, Tracy?
Yes.
Well, luckily, experience fighting monkeys is good prep for YouTube. Okay, that didn't get a laugh.
I laughed, but my mic was muted because the ferrets they'll scratch sometimes, and I don't want that to.
I was being a terrible guest, and I was being distracted by magnets.
I was being distracted by. I was being distracted by, something similar that happened to me. I had a minor bird pwn me. Again, I was at a store.
What?
I think it was like a drugstore. There was a minor bird.
Poor Tracy just has no luck with animals.
Yeah.
Now I'm worried to introduce you to my ferrets because they might pwn you too. Don't have to scald them severely.
Yeah. It just goes to show I can be pwned by a minor bird. That's sad.
There was a woman who was attacked by a bat in broad daylight, which grabbed onto her skull and wouldn't let go until she got to the hospital.
Okay, here's that story.
Yeah. That wasn't you by any chance, was it, Tracy?
No, that wasn't me this time.
Yeah, I thought I'd better check.
Sorry, it might be me, but you broke up. I heard there was a woman, and then a pause. I don't know that everybody else heard the whole of that story.
Did anyone hear the rest of it?
Yeah, a bat grabbed a hold of a woman's skull in broad daylight, and she had to go to the hospital to get it removed. And I always thought that was an urban myth.
It was on crack.com, so possibly it is.
Okay.
They said on QI that it's a myth that bats get in your hair and things, because their sonar's too good for them, to sort of accidentally fly into someone or whatever. Queenie, is it true that
it was intentional, bat thing.
Bats, bastards. Queenie, we had a ferret conversation the other day, and you weren't around, and someone said that ferrets are at their noisiest when they have sex.
Well, I wouldn't know. Mine are spayed and neutered, so they don't generally have sex. As far as ferrets go in general, even when they're just like having a whole lot of fun, the most they'll make is like a chicka chicka kind of noise. Like, it's really adorable. Like, you have to hear it. It's kind of like little ferrety laughter, and it's not even that loud. Sometimes if you hurt them or something, like I accidentally was closing one of their paws in the cage door at one point. Like, I think it was early last year, and they kind of made like a more distressed kind of chicky chicky noise, and that's how you know. Like, if you're doing something hurtful to them, or if they're really enjoying themselves, they'll make noise. But other than that, like, the loudest they get is when they're scratching at the bottom of their cage, trying to burrow out like Shawshank Redemption.
I'm now picturing ferrets emptying sand out of their little ferret legs.
Oh my God, we should do a ferret version of the Shawshank Redemption.
Hey.
We definitely should.
I'm full of good ideas today. I told the waitress at the IHOP we went to that they should make pancake burgers.
Oh, that'd be
pancake burgers, fantastic. Now, believe
what
it or not,
would you have in the middle?
In the UK, the pancake. In a bowl.
Oh, okay.
It depends on what time of day you'd be eating the pancake. Like, if it was a lunchtime pancake, I'm thinking you'd have, like, 2 potato pancakes with, like, hamburger stuff in it. Or if it was in the morning, like, 2 regular pancakes with, like, eggs and sausage and stuff in it.
Sounds good.
Okay. I was going to say that it used to be considered entertainment in the UK for men to stick ferrets down their trousers. And I wiggle and it makes the man have to, like, dance around. And the thing is, believe it or not, that star The Hobbit and former Doctor Who actor Sylvester McCoy began his entertainment career, his showbiz career, as, I forget what they're called, as somebody who, it was him and Ken Campbell used to stick either ferrets or stoats down their trousers.
I am being kidnapped to order pizza. I will return eventually.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you sure you didn't get that off of Brass Eye?
I'm fairly sure that it's a true story. Reasonably sure.
Well, people used to do a lot of strange things. Yeah, but before internet and television. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, not before television in his case, but I think it does go back to kind of music hall. Yeah, if you imagine it's Victorian times, you haven't got radio yet. You've got Punch and Judy shows. You've got music hall. You've got playing with a piece of string in the streets or whatever it was that people did. I mean, you just, if particularly if you didn't have the education to read a book, you couldn't afford a piano in the house. There was just fuck all to keep you entertained, really.
Yes.
So, you'd make a living sticking rodents down your... Are ferrets rodents?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they were grateful for it, too.
They
They
were
were grateful. Yes, indeed. So, right, I don't know what to do topic-wise now, because... okay, let's talk about pizza. So, favourite pizza. I like seafood pizza. I consider seafood pizza to be the very best type, and here's why. Because the anchovy is salty and draftful. They complement each other perfectly. In posh restaurants, you get seafood pizza with mussels on, and that's good too. So people in the comment section actually vote. I'm nominating seafood pizza as the best type of pizza. Tracy?
Oh, let's see. Well, I like a lot of meat on my pizza. Lots of cheese and meat. Especially pepperoni, I think. It may not be too exciting or anything, but, I like it.
Extra cheese, like do you like meatballs and...
Yes, I think recently I had never heard of it. BLT pizza.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't think I would like it, but I tried it. I mean, it had mayonnaise on it, and the whole thing, and it was actually very good.
And do you like spicy pizza or just plain meat?
Oh, I used to like spicy, but the older you get, the less spice likes you.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, okay, well, I don't know if you have them in... I don't think I've ever come across a BLT pizza in this country, but we do have some quite strange pizzas these days. But we combine them now, so you can get a chow mein pizza, or some kind of Chinese. So if you can't decide between a Chinese and a pizza, you go for the Chinese pizza. And, of course, you can get, like, tandoori chicken pizza. So David Lister was actually in Red Dwarf, was actually prophetic. You can now get, like, a spicy... I don't know if there's a Vindaloo pizza yet. There should be a Vindaloo.
There really should be.
Oh, yeah. All you have
from the quest for pizza. Sorry about that.
Oh, yes. If somebody won't eat the pizza, all you have to do is just pour Vindaloo sauce over it, curry sauce, and they'll just yum it right up.
Exactly. Yes, Queenie, we were talking about curry-flavoured pizzas.
Ah. Well, yes. I'll have you know, I didn't even have to leave the house to solve my soda deficiency.
Yeah,
that's 2 later on with the pizza.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know if you have this in America, but in the UK, we can actually get beer and wine bought with our takeaway.
You bastard.
That's only quite a recent thing as well, isn't it? When the 24-hour licensing came in, I think it came out quite soon after that, didn't it?
Yeah. I know that in Scotland, unsurprisingly, it would have to be Scotland, they have delivery places exclusively for alcohol. But then you can't drink on the streets. You can't have an open container of alcohol on the streets in Scotland anymore. Yeah, I would have thought it was mandatory. And you're not a true Scotsman. Yeah, I would have thought you weren't a true Scotsman unless you walked around the streets in a string vest carrying an open can of special brew with Pepsi. And that's just offensive and bigoted. I apologise. They produced the show, Babsy Nesbitt, so they're doing it themselves, really. I'd like to introduce Happy Atheist 76.
Hello.
Whee!
Hello. And we were going through, I think it's James's turn. We've established that I like seafood pizza, Tracy likes meaty pizza, and we're about to hear about, and then we had a conversation about pizza with curry on it. which I don't know if that's an exclusively British thing or not, because we're just going to end up putting curry on everything, I think. So, James, best pizza topping?
I would have said seafood pizza as well. Flavour's just lovely, but it can be a little bit too much after you've tried to get through a whole 12-inch one yourself. I'll have a different pizza every time. I like to mix things up. I'm quite experimental like that. Even when I cook at home. Look, the last pizza I had at home was a pepperoni pizza with a whole pack of bacon put on top of it and half a wedge of cheese.
Wow. Everyone noticed how I managed to let the whole 12-incher thing slide. This is how much I've matured lately.
I was expecting that.
Okay, so I'd say that's a partial second vote for seafood already, but there are pros and cons to the seafood and other people. Yeah, so yes, I don't think I've often had bacon on a pizza at all.
That's lovely.
I recently discovered that spinach pasta with Stilton grated onto it is absolutely fantastic. But anyway, that's pasta, that's a different thing. So, Queenie, best pizza topping?
I like metaphorical pizza.
Yeah.
It's way better than metaphorical fruit, I'll have you know.
Right, okay. I'm going to rewrite Genesis. So it definitely has to be forbidden pizza. That sounds if I ever own a pizza parlor, it will feature metaphorical pizza and forbidden pizza, and people aren't allowed to ask what's on them. They just have to order them in blind.
Forbidden pizza has to have apple on it.
Yes.
And snake.
Snake meat. A snake meat
yes.
pizza.
Yeah, snake and apple.
I wonder if it would work. With apple. It might do.
Is it legal to put snake meat on a pizza?
Why not?
A question never before asked in a Skype conversation. I'm sure. Okay, so metaphorical pizza. I'm next time I bring up for a takeaway, I am going to ask for metaphorical pizza and see what they say. Okay. Happy Atheist. Or is it okay to use your real name?
Yes, you can use our real name.
Okay, Vanessa. It says Vanessa on the screen, so I'm going to slip up eventually anyway. Yes, best pizza topping.
I like Hawaiian. It's got pineapple on it. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And I had to follow Queenie.
Yeah,
It's anticlimactic.
So when I was a kid, I found it very odd that people put fruit on pizza. I just sort of thought it's a mixing of the savoury. The first time I ever had fruit on a pizza was when the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, as we called them, because the word ninja wasn't allowed by the BBC at the time, for a children's show. But you would get like the official Turtles pizza, which is like a kid's size pizza, and it was just an apple pizza. I don't know what the association between apple pizza and Turtles is, but that was like, okay, this is the strangest dinner I've ever had, but it's got the Turtles logo on. So,
I remember that. And actually, you are wrong. Nearly all pizzas have fruit on them.
Tomatoes!
Well done.
Oh, yes, of course, you are right.
James,
Tomatoes.
beat me to it!
Yes, I apologise. Tomatoes are a fruit. I'm an idiot. I'm so sorry. I'm the Alan Davis.
Stop it.
David Mitchell forgot it on didn't know that on Peep Show either.
Fair enough.
Alex.
Yeah.
Yes?
You're supposed to only self-deprecate in moderation.
I know.
Yes,
I know.
all things in moderation.
All things in moderation. So, okay, now that the serious topic of pizza toppings is covered, the main serious topic has been suggested, understandably, because I'm going to make this joke because I can, is that what was it? We have as many nuts as a Christmas pudding. So why don't we've been asked to discuss mental health issues and life with mental illness in society, etc. So I'll introduce that I am Alex and I have OCD. Tracy?
My name is Tracy and I have inattentive type ADD.
James?
I am James and I have Asperger's syndrome.
Schizophrenic Queen?
I have schizophrenia.
I wonder.
Yeah. I have schizophrenia, which actually includes a lot of things, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, yeah.
What about Vanessa? Are you going to ask Vanessa?
Yes. And Vanessa's going to turn out to be completely sane after all that. Damn. Hello?
I'm Vanessa, and I have nothing. I'm the weirdo on the group right now.
You never thought that would happen.
A token normaling. Righty-ho. Okay. So, I'll tell you what, I've actually done several interviews recently fielding questions about living with OCD. So, once again, I'll tell you what, I'll go the same order. I'll keep going the same way around and put Tracy on the spot and say, what do you think is the biggest... Actually, maybe some explanation. There's different types of ADD. Why don't you explain the kind of ADD that you have?
Okay, well, I'll try my best. Okay. The type of ADD I have was first discovered in the early 90s, and then it wasn't diagnosed in me until about 10 years later. During that time, I was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder. Right. And so for 10 years, the way you treat social anxiety disorder is to go out and try to socialize as much as possible. And the more I did it, the worse my social anxiety disorder got. And then once I got diagnosed with the inattentive type ADD, social anxiety is a symptom of inattentive type ADD. And the way to treat that is completely different. To treat that kind of anxiety disorder that is a symptom of my type of ADD is to socialize only as much as you feel that you're capable of. Of course, there's some things that you're going to have to do, and if you don't really feel up to socializing, there are ways, you don't have, if you don't have to, then don't. If you're at a big party and sometimes you feel like you just got to get away, that there are ways of saying, oh, I just got to go out and take a walk or something. Yeah. People like me tend to more like just disappear. There's when I first started reading about it, I was cracking up. I thought I was the only one that did this sort of thing. I was reading a book. It's like, this book is all about me. I can't believe it. But sometimes you'll feel like you just have to get away, and you just tell people, oh, I have to go out and get some fresh air or something. Because there's been so many times I've just felt like I had to escape for a little bit, and I would come back in, I would hear, has anybody seen Tracy lately? I don't know. She seems to have just disappeared.
Yeah, I remember you initially being quite shy, because I'm responsible for your first ever Skype group call. You were okay with one-on-one, but I remember the days when you would be in a group call and literally say nothing. People would forget that you were even there.
Yeah, well, that happens in real life, too.
Right, yeah, it's, social things are very, I can relate to anybody having difficulty. I tend to be able to throw myself in there, but sometimes getting away from people, well, not because I have social anxiety, I just have anxiety generally, but it can be set off by people, but full subject really. So, how is that connected with, is it inattentive ADD?
Yeah, and, well, another thing that I hate the name of it. I wish that they would change the name, because the inattentiveness is just a symptom of a more complex disability.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like a real disability, but it is a very disabling disability.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think my type might be even more disabling than the hyperactive type, because you really don't want to be out there. You do kind of have agoraphobia and...
Right. Yeah. So it causes agoraphobia.
Yes, it's all part of it. You also feel like an extra sense of empathy towards people, and you would think having extra empathy would make you more sociable, but it just kind of has the opposite effect. You're afraid to say something. You're afraid you might hurt somebody's feelings. Even if somebody is being hurtful to you, you don't want to hurt them back, because then not only do you feel the pain that's being caused to you, you feel the pain that you cause back, so you feel like you hurt twice as bad. And it makes it, very difficult to win arguments at that.
Right. Yes, if you're with somebody who doesn't mind going into attack mode. Not but, right. So it's a fairly recently discovered condition. It hadn't actually occurred to me, of course, but I suppose people have only really talked about ADD in the past couple of decades, haven't they? I don't know anything about when or how it was discovered, or...
well, the hyperactive type has been known about, I think, maybe since the 50s.
Yeah. Okay. Right, yeah. So what would you say, you probably already covered this, but sort of like, in terms of, other than the social aspects, what would you say is like the most, because I know you do get very, very distracted, and like me, you have difficulty thinking about a particular thing that you fixated on. Is that like a big, like practical hindrance in day-to-day life?
Yes, I think it has something to do with organization. What it mostly is the organizational part of your brain misfires.
Right. Okay. Yes.
So because a lot of people will say, well, if you have a hard time remembering where you put your keys, always put your keys right in the same place all the time. And I try to tell people, I said, but the thing is, if you're walking into your apartment or whatever, and your brain decides to misfire right at that time, you're not going to be able to think about putting your keys in that particular place. You won't have like any recall of what happened right at that moment.
Yeah. Do you think sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do you think if you had ADD and OCD, the two would cancel each other out?
No, I don't think so. I think it'd just be a double problem there. And sometimes I think maybe, OCD can develop with ADD, because, if you have to do things a certain way, and, if you don't do it just right, you are going to get lost.
Yeah. Okay. Now, James, I think you've probably discussed Asperger's a bit before, haven't you?
I think I discussed it a little bit in... did I discuss it in the interview?
I think you did, yes.
I may well have done.
And I think it's maybe come up in a video or videos before.
Yeah.
So what would you say... When were you first diagnosed with Asperger's?
I was actually diagnosed at 4, but my dad and my school decided that the best thing to do would be to not tell me that I had it, thinking that if I wasn't told I had it, then I wouldn't use it as an excuse, and I'd end up growing out of it. Whereas the opposite ended up being true. I found out when I was 13, and then I was like, hang on, that actually explains a lot. Now I can actually understand what it is, and look into it, and learn how to improve.
Yes. Good God, parents. some parents make some very, pardon me, stupid decisions. And,
yes, I believe that was a very stupid decision.
The thing is here that the worst thing about that is one of the worst things about being different when you're growing up is if you don't understand it. I didn't know why I did a lot of the things I did as a kid because no one had diagnosed me with OCD. And yes, there are people who will use something as an excuse, but I'd say it's actually very cruel to choose to withhold. Because at least in my case, my parents didn't know. The teachers, maybe the teachers should have known, should have gone, oh, that's a sign of. No, that sounds pretty awful. I'm amazed that they can diagnose somebody with Asperger's. I was impressed that someone could be diagnosed as young as 4.
Yeah, it's definitely got milder as I've grown up. I've learned to cope with it better. And the whole autistic spectrum thing has so much variability. It can vary from people who have autism so badly that they're unable to speak to those who you wouldn't know unless you'd actually ask them. And it's not just for social functionability. Is that a word? It's not just their social functionability. It's there's all sorts of other elements to it as well. I suppose in many ways I find that it can be quite there's similar symptoms to what you three have. People with Asperger's syndrome seem to either be one of two ways. They're either extremely quiet and shy, or they never shut up. And I think I've been both at one point or another.
Can I throw in on that?
Yeah, of course.
Because with how your dad and the teachers or whatever decided to deal with it, I think there's a flaw in the thought that that you can treat something like that as sort of a... Because I think with, like, how you explained it, how they were thinking if they didn't tell you, you would just grow out of it.
Yeah.
That's treating it like... that's treating it like something purely psychological that you potentially made up, and then you would just decide to grow out of it instead of treating it like what it actually is.
Yeah.
I think they were in denial, but that's all I wanted to say.
It may well have been.
Yes, but what people don't understand about mental disorders and mental disabilities is that it is a physical disorder or disability. Just because it's in the brain and you can't see it doesn't make it any less physical than a physical disorder or disability.
Yeah.
Well, you can't tell somebody has heart disease just by looking at them.
Yes, but for some reason, if you have diabetes, you can't just try really hard and not have it.
Yeah.
And people seem to understand that, but because it's your brain. Well, if it's in your brain, you must be able to just think it away.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are people who will use those sort of who will use their mental condition as excuses for failing, but it's still not.
And the same can be said about
someone else to decide.
Right, and
someone
the same
can't say, "Oh well, we're not going to tell them just in case that they decide to act that way." That's ridiculous.
Right. Well, and the same can be said about a physical disability. People will use their physical disabilities to get out doing things. Yep.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, no one's going to be like, I'm paralysed. I didn't know that. Whereas you can hide the fact that a child's been diagnosed with some form of mental disability or condition.
You see, this is something... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, people think that therapy is just lying on a couch and talking, but in reality, you're putting work in, and it's a fight, and it means admitting shit, owning shit, and you fight. It's one of the things I love about the film Dirty Filthy Love, in which a character loses his job, a marriage is destroyed. The main character treads in dog shit. He has OCD, and he ends up washing, because he treads in dog shit, he ends up washing his feet in neat bleach. Another character loses access, endangers the life of his child, and loses access. And there's a moment where the main character, Mark, he says, "I am declaring war on this disease," and do fucking right you are. You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say with actually, sorry, Tracy, you were going to say something.
I forgot what it was now.
Sorry.
She was enthralled by your inspiration.
Yes.
Sure. With Asperger's, actually, I'll tell this because I don't think I've told this story on YouTube before. Is that obviously I find there are commonalities, as you say. I can see elements of OCD and Asperger's. I can relate to certain things. I have been tested because I've been tested twice. I saw a psychologist, a child psychologist, even though I was in my early mid-20s, who basically said, if you have Asperger's, you're so high functioning that I don't think it really matters. I don't think a diagnosis will change anything. It doesn't really affect you. She may or may not have been correct. That's the trouble with it being a spectrum, of course. Is where are you the world's tallest giant? Where are you the world's shortest giant or world's tallest midget? But another thing is that later on it was decided that I definitely do have a personality disorder. And the way it works for some reason, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, in London, north of the Thames, easy, you get very locally for every personality disorder except for autistic spectrum disorder. Came very close to two of them, including borderline. I border on borderline personality disorder. There's another one that involves enjoying making lists and things like that, where I sort of think, well, an OCD person might anyway, and that's not a personality disorder, so you could seem to have it. So, but by process of elimination, if one accepts the basic assumption that I have a personality disorder, then by process of elimination, I do have an autistic spectrum disorder, which could be Asperger's. But that's south of the Thames, and there's a stupid waiting list where I think they try to save time and money by just bumping people off. Either that or something got lost in the mail because it's years later, and I've not heard back. So I wonder, because the thing is, I thought, hang on, there's things about me that are very non-Asperger's. But really, there are stereotypes. I know people talk about there's a male-female brain theory that I think it's Sacha Baron Cohen's cousin has, where you sort of think, well, can you be autistic and a left-brainer? My sister has Asperger's, and she's the more sciencey mathematical type, I often think, she's the right brainer, I'm the left brainer. But actually, if you do some research, Dan Aykroyd, Hollywood actor, Asperger's, the Autistic Acting Society in America, there's a young, promising filmmaker with Asperger's in America. So there are always going to be exceptions to stereotypes.
I have heard the male brain theory before, and it does sound interesting. I know that I think autism has been linked to high testosterone in the womb, and of course it's a lot more common in men than it is in women.
Yes.
As a lot of genetic disorders are.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you know of lots of? Cause I know the stereotype of anybody with autistic spectrum disorder, but I used to know an actor who also taught acting, and said that he often found actually a group of children with autistic spectrum disorders can actually be among the most imaginative, most playful, most spontaneous, and then completely buck the stereotype.
I think there are a few. I mean, the people with Asperger's I've met who are quite loud and don't shut up. Yeah, I'd say it's probably quite true of them. As me, I mean, I've been brought up, thinking that it's something to be shameful of, and I've ended up kind of restricting myself a lot because of that.
Mm.
Whereas as a kid, I was extremely imaginative. In some ways, I still am, but I'm certainly nowhere near as spontaneous as I otherwise would have been.
Right. Yeah. I can definitely relate. Well, yes, social stigma is actually a subject that we need to come up. But yes, there's a thought that you should feel ashamed of being different, and that ties in with the question actually, because it's in relation to society and people's understanding of you, and that which actually is why the diagnosis actually explaining this is ADD or this is OCD or this is Asperger's or this is schizophrenia actually matters ultimately, because you want people to understand you better and not judge things that you can't help a lot of the time. And so it's a bit of both, really, isn't it? People should understand, same as anything. Less ignorance means more tolerance, but at the same time, as I say, it is a fight to some extent. And now, Queenie, you've talked about this kind of thing a lot, so I don't know if I've ever heard the full story of how you came to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. I know you were pretty young. Well, you still are pretty young. Are you prepared to go into that?
Sure. I was hospitalized when I was in the military. And a lot of the stuff that happened there is, it's a doozy. The kind of people I was hanging out with were, I don't know if they did it because they thought it was funny, or if they did it because they actually believed it, or what. But, the kind of people I was hanging out with were making up these wild, outlandish stories, and I was just eating them all up because, I didn't know quite what I was going through at the time. I couldn't sleep because I kept seeing these things in the dark and just all these paranoid feelings and things, and I couldn't sleep, and I would just kind of find other things to do, and eventually I became so stressed and exhausted that I had a mental breakdown, and they shipped me out to San Diego. And in San Diego I was in a mental hospital, and it was calmer, but I still had these odd thoughts. I would hear this kind of rustling noise at nighttime, and I thought it was mice chewing through the walls. And I tried to tell one of the nurses once, and only once, that I was having, some of the symptoms that the doctor said I should tell a nurse if I was having these problems. And she said, oh, well, just talk to me when you're feeling better. Something really snotty. She was very brash and offhanded about it. I don't want to talk to you while you're like this or whatever. And I, at this point in my life, I had no idea what was going on or why I was having all these odd thoughts and things like that. And so they diagnosed me with a couple things schizotypal personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, these sort of things. They'd given me a test before and while I was in the hospital. The first time I took the test, I answered it pretty truthfully. The second time I took this test, I lied my ass off because I wanted to get the fuck out of the hospital. And so they discharged me from the hospital, and then I got discharged from the military, and because they were
Okay.
I didn't have any benefits at the time, because with personality disorders, they don't consider that any sort of service-connected thing, and that's what they thought I have, I guess, or what I had. And so, but I didn't think I needed any benefits. I thought, go home, recoup, and then go out and get another type of job, and then maybe it wouldn't be so hard. And so when I first got back, it was like, okay, I'm going to be fine. There's like, it was just the military. Things were really rough, you know, whatever. Like, this time, like, I can totally do it. Like, none of that stuff is here, so I'll be fine. And it started off with small noises and just random things, and I would get, like, really scared. And I couldn't tell you why. Like, I think one of the times I got, like, overwhelmingly frightened, it was because the freezer was making ice. And, just everything became threatening somehow. And I ended up staying up all night because I figured that was the most dangerous time. And then I would sleep all day. And there were all kinds of weird things that kind of went on. And one of the things was I thought my dog was a robot spy sent from the government to kill me. And I guess I obsessed about it a lot because my dad goes, well, we can cut the dog open to see if it's a robot, if it worries you that much. And I was kind of, whoa. And I was like, okay, I'll keep that to myself or whatever. But, like, it was something about her eyes. I was like, those aren't the eyes of anything alive. And I got really scared of the weirdest stuff. And I would go into subcatatonic states, which I don't even know if I did them when other people were around or if I just sort of happened randomly and it just happened to be that I was awake when everybody else was sleeping, so that's when it happened, or that sort of thing. A subcatatonic state is when you can move around and interact with things, but mentally you're not there. You're somewhere else. And I always give that explanation when I talk about subcatatonia. I think, actually, that my parents wanted to think that it was just a hormone problem, because a lot of the problems I was having, I was keeping to myself because I thought they wanted to kill me. And so they didn't really think that I had anything seriously wrong, that I could just get some birth control or something, and that I would be normalized or something. And I actually only started getting treatment when they took me to the doctor to get birth control, and I was convinced he was, like, that they were collaborating with the doctor to poison me, so I had to get him to give me something different, or I was gonna die of horrible poisoning. And so, I told him I'm seeing things, and, 'cause I was, but I told him, like, I basically told him everything, and he was like, well, I definitely think that birth control is not something that's going to fix this. And that's when I started on the road to treatment. I actually had to write the most bizarre letter ever to my state senator to get an evaluation through the VA, which then got me benefits. I don't remember the exact contents of the letter, but it was something about how demons in the government were going to kill me and steal my soul, and it was one of those forms where you're supposed to make a request, but I just kind of made this odd declarative statements about demons in the government and stuff, and didn't actually include a question, so I ended up getting a call, like, a week later or something from this nervous-sounding secretary, like, we got your letter, we didn't know quite what you wanted us to do, and I was like, I need some help, and they were like, we'll get them to see you.
Well, don't most American politicians believe in demons anyway?
I have no idea, but apparently they didn't believe in the kind that I did.
Queenie, are there different types of schizophrenia?
Oh, yes. There's paranoid schizophrenia, disorganized schizophrenia, schizoaffective. There's even, like, they have a class of schizophrenia for schizophrenia that doesn't fit in the other schizophrenia categories. I think when I started out...
Would that be schizophrenic schizophrenia?
Mm-hmm. No. I think it's called general schizophrenia or something. Where you can have a... Huh?
Isn't that
catatonic. Oh. Yeah, catatonic schizophrenia is where any sort of schizophrenic thing that you have going on involves catatonia.
What do you find to be most effective?
As far as
sort of minimizing the symptoms?
I have to think very intensely about the things that I'm experiencing. It's sort of a thought disorder. It's sort of a chemical imbalance. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I know what it does. And I've had to pay very close attention to myself in order to figure out what it feels like when I'm experiencing something that might not be true, so that I can kind of stop myself and be like, now wait a minute, remember this. This might not be true here.
Mm-hmm. So, would you say that you're a fairly typical example? Well, we all know you're unique, Queenie, but what I mean is, if you met someone else with disorganized schizophrenia, do you automatically kind of recognize, that's another person with disorganized schizophrenia?
I'm not sure presently if I could recognize somebody else with some sort of anything, really, because I don't know if it's because... I think it's because I've been isolating so intensely lately.
Right.
But nowadays, anytime I go out, if I'm not with somebody, I get really intense social anxiety. I was in the shrink's office today, and it was fine in the beginning, and I went in and I talked to her, and it was okay. And then I get out to the waiting room, and she kind of leaves me off by myself, and there's all these people there, and I almost started crying.
Oh. You're writing a kind of semi-autobiographical book. See, how is the book coming along?
The semi-autobiographical one? Or the one that I'm writing about caterpillars, horses.
Oh, I didn't know about the other one. The one that's kind of based on your experiences, some of your hallucinations and things. Like, I think of it as, you read just some of it, and I think of it as a sort of biography of things that didn't happen. That was the one you were discussing on the train in the road trip videos.
Oh, that one. That one's based on some hallucinations I've had, but it isn't strictly hallucinations I've had. It's just taking different elements. Like the demon, he was an element of a lot of hallucinations that I had. And the part in it where I talked about how the girl was looking for a way to stop the all-consuming emptiness. That's actually one of the symptoms, or like one of the side effects, I guess you could say, of schizophrenia, is that you tend to be less capable of forming strong bonds with people. And as somebody who doesn't particularly have any sort of strong family bonds to start off with, and given that, I grew up all over the place, so I don't particularly have any strong bonds of friendship with anybody either, it's like being in a dark room under a spotlight. I mean, I remember one time I was in the car with my dad, and I just started intensely apologizing to him because I didn't feel like I was close to him. And he turns to me and he says, "I thought we were close."
Are you okay, Queenie? We can stop if you want.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry. But the thing is, I think it frustrates me to the point of tears when that happens, because I feel this gap, but then other people don't even know that it's there, so I don't even know if I made it up or not.
Maybe it's just a matter of perception.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get all teary on you. Sorry.
It's okay. Do you want to discuss any more, or do you want me to move on to Vanessa?
Vanessa, tell us what it's like to be a normie.
Yes,
I wanted to say that.
When were you first diagnosed with clinical sanity?
At the age of birth.
Right. You've always known you were a normling. Okay, so are there any social stigmas with being normal in society?
No.
How has being normal affected you personally?
I'm normal. Like,
Ah, excellent.
Well, I guess if you've always been normal, you wouldn't know what it would be like to be anything else.
Yes, that's very true. Ah, okay.
I know that's one thing with, people ask, what's it like to have Asperger's syndrome, and it's like, whatever, and I'll just respond with, well, what's it like to be normal? I've got nothing else, no other experience I haven't got normality to compare it to.
Yeah.
That's a good point, yeah.
And with long-term conditions, you just sort of forget what it was like.
Yeah.
Well, most of these things, we always had them. It's just when were you diagnosed? But I don't think that I can't remember any age where I didn't think and do things that you would call OCD. It's just when do you get that label? But as I always say, I know I'm repeating myself, but we weren't being recorded before. I'm so lucky to have the most clearly labelled illness ever: obsessive compulsive disorder. Does what it says on the tin, and also I can spell it, unlike schizophrenia.
I cannot spell schizophrenia.
So this is the thing, Queenie. Whenever I've typed out the hyperlink to shout you out or box you, I'm always like, oh, she's so inconsiderate. Why can't she have an illness I can spell?
Well, believe me, when you've got it, you've got to know how to spell it.
Yes, I can imagine that.
It would be like if James couldn't spell Asperger's, or if you couldn't spell obsessive compulsive.
Exactly. Actually, well, I tell you what, I was typing to somebody, I was trying to advise somebody on cognitive behavioural therapy, and I managed to misspell the words cognitive, behavioural, and therapy.
Well, at least you didn't misspell CBT.
Well, yes, it would be quite embarrassing if I misspelled that. It would be quite embarrassing if I misspelled OCD. It would just be. But then, as everyone knows, those letters should be in alphabetical order. Actually, that makes me think of a good way of carrying this on, because last year I discovered that Dr. Samuel Johnson, writer of the first dictionary, had OCD. Actually, apparently he had OCD and Tourette's. On QI, they remarked on how beautiful it is that somebody with Tourette's would be a poet, because he was a poet as well. Although we don't know what his actual symptoms were. And I always think, if people want to have a go at people with OCD, then they shouldn't have the right to use dictionaries to correct people's spelling, and playing Scrabble would be far difficult. The concept, a genius with OCD woke up one morning and said, I'm going to take all the words, put them in alphabetical order, and define all of them. So I did also actually, there are a couple of YouTube videos with all the famous people who have or have had OCD. Apparently it includes Einstein, but from what I've heard, Einstein had everything. Einstein was dyslexic. Einstein had Asperger's. So it's sort of like that. So true genius comes from having as many problems as possible, apparently. Although actually a physicist, a physicist having dyslexia apparently makes sense, because there's something about, you might know about this, James, you're the scientific one of the group, there's something about three-dimensional thinking that dyslexics have.
I've heard something like that before. I know that a lot of disorders have positive aspects associated with them. People with Tourette's can quite often be extremely creative. People with Asperger's are often extremely good with maths and science and analytical thinking. strange. I've noticed a lot of people on YouTube, disproportionately far too many people on YouTube have Asperger's syndrome.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. And, I think that's because, people who, with Asperger's, they've got a lot they want to say, but being essentially socially retarded, it's very difficult for them to express themselves in the outside world, whereas having time to stop and think before you put things into words and script it and that kind of thing, they can quite often do extremely well. So, that kind of brings me on to something else. I was going to ask other people whether or not there was any positives associated with their various disorders.
What order should we go in here?
We'll start with you if you want, Alex.
I'd say yes, and I'll cite Jamon Johnson as an example where the dedication to completism, to accuracy, even though he did make some mistakes. He thought that a tarantula was a type of insect, but then how many 18th century English people ever saw a tarantula? Yeah. You could torture him if you had a time machine, if you point that out, like, they were actually, the publishers were storming his house. They actually ended up trying to take the book by force because OCD, torn from his own stubborn OCD hands. But that's 8 years collecting over 42,000 words and definitions, or writing the definitions. And actually, I was in something of a state last year, and 2 weeks went by in 2 days. Well, I literally, when I went into the kitchen, the bread that I bought, the bananas I bought, anything I bought, wasted away unopened. And it was in the space of those 2 weeks that I wrote my last book, and in such a frenetic state. This is the book that I've referenced once before, where James said, if you never, because he's heard a lot of it, he's the only other person who knows it apart from me. He said, if you die before you finish this, I'll kill you. So yeah, I think that a mental disorder can, in one way or another, just as Queenie is continually creative, just could not stop. Like it would be like expecting her to stop breathing, Yeah. And it's just certain things drive you to do so out of necessity. I'd even say actually that I developed writing as a teenager as a form of cognitive behavioural therapy before I even knew what it was. I think I instinctively, because it is a way of controlling and containing thoughts, and in a way dealing with a thought in a way that I think with How These Friends and Alienate People, now available by Amazon, linked in the description. That was, as I said, poured in. That was the world poured into my filter. Eventually, right, deal with these thoughts, deal with, and then you feel like you've kind of let go of something when you give it up. A bit like, Samuel Johnson is such a perfect metaphor, because how can a dictionary ever be completed? So, yeah, and I'll hand the floor over to somebody else. We could actually make this twofold. What positive aspects are there to your disorder, and are there any famous people or figures from history with the same problem that you admire and see as a role model? Make it a twofold thing. I'm going to pick on Tracy.
Okay, well, people with my type of ADD tend to think in whole pictures. That's why it's difficult sometimes to learn. Until you see the whole picture, you're kind of lost as what's going on. But once you see the whole picture, you kind of know what's going on, sometimes even better than anybody else might. I noticed, started really noticing around 11, 12, something might happen, and then my brain will just kind of just go, well, if this happens and this might happen. We have a way of seeing patterns emerging. And it has a way to do with the way our brains hold information. Everything just kind of gets all thrown in one place, which makes it very disorganized, but at the same time it kind of makes it easier for us to see how something over here might affect something over there, or something that might happen in a few years. If this happens here, then this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. And during my fundy years, I almost kind of felt like maybe I was prophetic or something. Maybe God was showing me these things that were going to happen. But when I learned that this is how our brains work, I was like, oh, okay, well that makes more sense. Yeah. But a lot of times people think that I can read their minds because of that. I can see, the way that they do something. Well, if they're doing this, then maybe they did that and this and that, and they're thinking this. And I actually had a woman really get mad at me at work one time. She says, well, how come you didn't know, I was thinking this? I'm like, well, I can't read your mind. And she says, well, you always have before.
Yeah. There's a lot of religion going on here. We've got demons, we've got a prophetess, we've got
yeah. Something that happened, while I was still, trying to be a fundy, was the way the right wing was trying to take over the country, and I could see in about 10, 15 years us becoming a theocracy, and it just really freaked me out. I tried to warn people that this was going to happen. Everybody just thought I was nuts, and about 20 years later, we've got these crazy fundies in the Senate, and I'm like, I told you this was going to happen. I saw it happen. I could see it in my head, it happening, and it did.
For anything which first ticked you off to that?
Off to what?
Off to the right wing, basically trying to become a theocracy.
Okay, well, I was going to church fairly regularly at that time, so I was privy to some of the things that these people were saying, that that they had a plan that they put specific people in like low level government, like school boards and that, and then build up, go up. How do I say that? Okay, I don't really quite know how to explain that, but start out, on the local boards, and then go up higher and higher, in the government, and it just, the plan, it was perfect. I couldn't see how it wouldn't work. Yeah, and this was before the internet and all that. And I don't know how to pronounce that big long word. It starts with an M, Machiavellian.
Oh, Machiavellian.
Yeah, but that's kind of the plan. That it was kind of using that playbook. At the time, I didn't know what that was, but I thought, oh my God, that's genius. And I was thinking at the time, even though I was trying to be a good fundy and all that, I knew that, in order to keep our religious freedoms, that our country had to stay secular.
Yeah.
And I thought, joining a religious cult or group or whatever is something that should be voluntary. It shouldn't, the government shouldn't force you into a religion, which kind of made me a bad fundy. But but it was that kind of thing that really made me question my religious beliefs, and it was, just little by little. I just, I slowly became an atheist after that.
Excellent.
That backfired a little bit then.
Yes, it did. Yes.
I'd actually say that could be its whole. before we forget, because we haven't got to Queenie yet, but before we forget, I would actually, I think James hasn't answered his own question. But before we forget, that's actually a relationship between our disorders and religion is something, and I can chip in with OCD as well. But then with OCD and Asperger's, we've got statistics there, I think. But before we get to that, James, what would you say is the most positive thing about Asperger's, and who's the most famous Asperger's sufferer that you most admire?
There's loads of famous Asperger's sufferers. I suppose Bill Gates, richest man in the world, Asperger's syndrome. Pretty good example. Of course, Einstein, many people think that he had Asperger's, although I don't think that we'll ever know, because you can only really diagnose it in a living person.
Right.
Also, lots of people think Da Vinci, Newton, all of that lot. I suppose, most positive, analytical, enhanced analytical skills. Most people with autism tend to be extremely skilled in a single area, but as I said, with me, I was made to sort of feel, a bit sort of ashamed about it, so I kind of forced myself into exploring many different areas. So I'm kind of a polymath as a result. I can pick up certain skills extremely quickly.
Oh, okay, that's cool. And Queenie, so most positive thing and famous or person from history that you most admire?
As far as people who I would admire with schizophrenia, it's not something that's particularly smiled upon in the media. I mean, the only kind of reference I would even have to somebody of potential notoriety with schizophrenia would be the movie A Beautiful Mind. I think schizophrenia plays on creative thinking, and it doesn't even necessarily have to come out in the form of art. Sometimes it can come out in pretty much, I think, any kind of form. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it can be music or art or math. Mine comes out in a very visual way because I'm so easily visually stimulated. I just, basically, what I do when I'm painting or making things or really anything like that, I'm making something that's visually pleasing to me, and that's just what I'm doing. I don't particularly use any kind of technique or anything like that. I mean, it just sort of happens. I puke stuff onto whatever I'm working with because I want it to look nice for my eyeballs.
There's a quote.
I love it.
You better quote that.
Okay, Vanessa, are there any positive aspects of being normal? And of all the normal people, famous or from history, who do you most admire?
I can't even come up with a clever retort for that.
You have the hardest job on this show.
Yeah. So there's a downside to being normal, you're saying.
You can't play the victim card.
James, there is actually a book about Asperger's. It's called Pretending to be Normal.
Yes, there is. I haven't read it.
I actually have a copy, but I haven't read it either. I borrowed it from my sister during a time when I thought that I might have it. I should get around at some point anyway, I'm sure it is. I like the title anyway. I think Pretending to be Normal is just a brilliant title.
Yeah.
Pretending to be normal is hard, because you never know if you're doing it right.
Any tips, Vanessa?
Yeah, well, I found the harder I tried to be normal, the more strange looks I would get.
I actually found out if you just watch it, people, and imitate the sort of, and I should explain, because part of schizophrenia is that you can have inappropriate responses. So I might think something is terribly sad and end up laughing hysterically. That's something that can occur. Usually I laugh when I'm scared, if that happens. But
well, that happens with normal people too, though.
Yeah. But, like, the thing that I found, because I think after a while of being schizophrenic, I didn't remember what it was like to interact on, like, a sort of normal level. So I would watch people, and I would just imitate their responses to certain scenarios. And sometimes there will come a scenario where I don't have any sort of prior knowledge of an appropriate response, and so I just won't do anything.
Psychopaths have that problem too.
Don't knot me in with those psychopaths.
No.
Psychopaths are people too.
Well, I guess. Technically.
I think it depends on the functionality. Like, I think when they talk about psychopaths killing people or whatever, like, that would be like a low-functioning psychopath. But if, like, I think in order to be an efficient, like, businessman or, like, in the government or something, like, in any sort of powerful degree, to any sort of efficiency, I think that would be considerable as, like, a high-functioning psychopath.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have heard it, called a psychopath is a sociopath that's smart enough to know how to act like they're not a sociopath. So a psychopath is pretty brilliant just by definition.
Well, that's kind of like in movies. If you look at any sort of movies where there's that character who's obviously, like, the quote-unquote dumb one, it actually takes somebody of considerable intelligence to pretend to be stupid.
Oh.
Yes. Interesting point. And a very chilling conversation suddenly.
Yes. Sorry about that. Went off topic, maybe. I don't know.
So, I was going to say, I believe that statistically people with OCD and people with autistic spectrum disorders are more likely to be atheists or to become atheists. Although, I understand it, the people with Asperger's who are religious are the most pious. Like my sister, seriously, when she converted, she's super, I know converts are often very pious, but she's like pretty much a fundy, actually. Just 2 science degrees and questions evolution. And is learning Greek so as to read the Gospels in the original language. But statistically, we tend to question things more and can't cope with I would say that with OCD, you're less capable of cognitive dissonance. So me reading the Bible in my early 20s, and maybe this is true of a lot of people, I think with OCD, even more likely to be guaranteed to become an atheist, or at least to reject the claims of religion, especially when Jesus contradicts himself in the same book, for example. And would you say that your Asperger's, James, bears any kind of... Obviously, you're likely to be intelligent, you're likely to be scientifically minded and more logical than most people. Does that play into your your atheism, or to your quite fierce atheism?
I think that personally it's been a factor. I haven't seen the statistics myself, but what you just described sounds, from my guess, exactly spot on, nail on the head. I know certainly within YouTube, there's loads of people in the atheist community who have Asperger's syndrome. And I have seen a couple of religious people with it as well who are extremely passionate about it. So, I think it probably tends to make people have more extreme views towards religion, generally more on the atheistic side.
Yeah. And, Well, Queenie, I think you've spoken before about this, that your experiences with religion as a schizophrenic person haven't been exactly great.
Oh, yeah. Basically, my schizophrenia required that I either become an atheist or be a gibbering wreck. Because when you're having a trans-dimensional love affair with a being that wants to steal your soul, all you really need to do to solve this problem is kill God.
Aha. So here we have it, folks. One of our guests today is the person who killed God.
Oh, my. I never meant to hurt anyone. It just sort of happened.
It was a mercy killing.
Queenie, do you know a YouTuber? I think his name's Milan Jevic, something or other.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I've spoken to him a little bit. So he's schizophrenic as well. And he said, the last thing you want to do to a schizophrenic child is tell them that demons are real and and about hell and all of that stuff. And he seems to think that critical thinking and free thought have helped him recover to some extent.
Yeah, they've helped me too. Like when I say that I have to think very intensely about certain things. And the thing is, if I wasn't allowed to think critically on certain things like religion and things like that, I wouldn't be in control of the situation enough to discern what was real or not.
Yeah.
I've talked to Milan about this actually, and a lot of his sort of situations are pretty similar to mine. I'm not going to go into detail about what his might have been motivated by, because, like, personally, I never asked that deeply into people's stuff. But, like, with my sort of demonic relations, I should say, I think it was sort of a psychological construct based on romanticism and abandonment.
Yeah.
I will say, actually, that there is an interview, a very recent interview between Milan and Queenie, which I will link in the description. And James,
fantastic.
Indeed.
Whose channel's it hosted on?
It's on his channel.
Okay. I don't know how I missed that then.
And everyone should subscribe to Milan because he has a sexy Russian accent.
Yes,
he does,
I
yes.
would like Milan to be here if it weren't for the fact he lives in Australia, and that time difference could not be worse. So I mean, Queenie, would you say that actually you're kind of in the Bible Belt, aren't you? You're in one of the most religious parts of America, one of the most religious parts of
Yes. There's currently a doctor who's getting a lot of flack for not allowing a 10-year-old to bear a child.
Oh my gosh.
Like, this doctor pretty much, I guess stuck to her guns and it's not medically safe or sound to have a 10-year-old giving birth to a child. And now people are giving shit to this doctor because she actually fucking stood up for shit. And the thing is, I've also heard these other stories, and it makes me think that people are actually psychotic and just not willing to admit it to themselves, and that's why they have such a problem with mental illness. There was this woman with, like, cerebral palsy, and to the extent that, like, she was mostly paralyzed and couldn't talk, and she was raped by this guy, but the judge let the guy off because she didn't say no. And the thing is, she couldn't even say yes if she can't even talk. What the fuck is wrong with people?
So would you say that you live in one of the worst places in Western English-speaking world to have a mental problem?
Yeah, I went, while I was phasing out of religion, I had been to a bit of an oddball church, and they were talking about how it wasn't really schizophrenia, or like that's the sort of idea that I got, because I ended up going to that church through the local comic book store owner, who doesn't run a comic book store here anymore because he couldn't afford to keep it open, and he had to watch out for his own finances and things, so he ended up closing shop. But I ended up going to the church that he goes to for a while, and the thing is, he said that he didn't think I could be schizophrenic because I was so intelligent, which is kind of like flawed thinking on his part. In the church he went to, they the idea that I think they had was that I didn't really have mental problems. I had spiritual problems, right, which wasn't necessarily helpful either. And one of the things he said to me that kind of got me to kind of fully disassociate myself from the religious community, I suppose, is he said that people who are demonically possessed choose to be demonically possessed, and they should be shot instead of potentially risking the lives of pastors.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
That is fucking insane.
Well, the thing is, usually this guy's a really nice guy, the kind of guy you'd talk to, the kind of guy you want to buy comic books from. But that one thing he said, and I had this thought, I kind of thought I was a psycho, but I don't even think I would say that.
This is why you need to move to a cool place like London and sell art in Brick Lane or Camden.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun. Can I crash on your couch?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, I think there's an exodus wanting to happen from the U.S. to the UK.
All the atheists will flee to the UK, and then the United States will collapse in on itself because they thought Jesus could fix the economy. Shoot.
So Vanessa, how does your normality affect your atheism?
I have no answer to that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I keep...
Wait a minute, I have a question.
My responses are so anticlimactic. Just the rest of y'all. Oh my goodness. There's nothing I can say.
Oh, you poor dear.
I'm listening though. I'm observing the conversation going on. So I'm learning. At least.
The normal person is outnumbered by the crazy people. So we're getting sorry, Queenie has a question.
Oh, I was going to ask, are you even an atheist, Vanessa? I mean, I don't mean to, be calling people out or anything.
Her username is Happy Atheist.
Oh, yeah, I think I was confusing her with somebody. This happens, and I do apologize, because I get people confused, and it's not really that they look the same or they have the same sort of name or anything like that. I don't even know what would cause the confusion. But, I have no problem having Christian friends and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, I thought maybe Vanessa was one of my Christian friends and I was being really rude. Oh.
No, actually, I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll do the same thing and, I'll be thinking about a person, and then it's kind of like your mind this happens to everybody. It kind of misfires, and they're like, I'm thinking about so-and-so, and then later, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, you're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. I actually do that quite a lot, but I have a question for Vanessa.
Okay.
It's random and not based on anything we're actually talking about. Do you think I would look cool with honey-colored eyes or violet eyes?
I think that you would look good with violet eyes because it's a very unique color.
Cuteness.
I had violet contact lenses as a teenager, but it didn't make a huge amount of difference, though. It wasn't that, but quite a subtle lilac sort of colour.
Yeah. I think it would be cool if I wore one of each, and then demanded that people call me dog.
Oh,
would be cool.
huskies that have angel eyes, isn't it? The two different colours. But why don't you get those cat-like eyes? Although you end up looking like a vampire.
I would have, but they only had like, I don't know, these are like Hollywood luxury color lenses, so really they're only going for like color and not like some sort of weird pupil shape thing. Plus when I get the ones that have like the slit look on the eye thing, like my slitted eyes always end up crooked. Like I'll have one slitted eye that's straight and the other one's like cockeyed, and it's like, damn it.
You know, you can actually get luminous ones. They're slightly more expensive, but you can get like proper glowing vampire eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Like they glow in the dark and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard those.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Mom.
You could really freak somebody out. Come in at night, you know, be sleeping and they wake up seeing a pair of eyes glowing at them. Oh, yeah.
In Queenie's neighbourhood, they would actually burn them at the stake.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like that. They'd be like, "That's it. That's the final straw. Burn the witch."
Or they
But
might
you
be
already-
really judgmental.
You've already stopped.
I'm ready to be judgmental. I've had people tell my family members not to let me around their children because I'm so dangerous or something. Go on, Alex.
And you could point out that schizophrenic people are statistically less likely to commit a violent crime.
And they would call me a liar and burn me anyway.
Right, yeah. Yes, I know. You've been stopped for looking suspicious for having an unusual hair colour. Your hair's blue at the time.
Yeah, I was blue, and the officer drove around the block 4 times before he finally stopped me. And he was like, "You look suspicious. Can I see your ID? Where are you staying at?" And I was like, "I live here in town. Here's my ID. Have I committed any sort of crime?" And then he was like, "We're just making sure, blah blah." And then he asked if I was I was wanted anywhere, like if I was like wanted for arrest or anything. I was like, I had that thought in my head where I'm like, if I was, why would I tell you? And then I was like, just give him a straight answer. He's not going to be as understanding as Border Patrol was. Or no, wait, this was before Border Patrol. So, my retrospective interjections. But because when I was on the road trip with Agent of Doubt, we got stopped by a Border Patrol group who were doing random road checks to make sure that none of the Mexicans were getting over, and which sounds terrible, but I guess that's pretty much how it is. And the guy, because Agent of Doubt's truck was completely packed, except for the 2 front seats. That's it, right? So there's no room for anybody else to be in there. And he kind of looks in the back and he's like, okay. But it's you knew he had to ask it because it was a part of the script. And he was like, do you have anybody else in the vehicle? And I piped up with, not unless you think we could fit a contortionist in there.
Oh, excellent. Okay, I'd like to ask people about creative projects because Queenie, you're working on this. I hope you're still working on this book, and there's something unusual about the main character that I don't know. Well, you've kind of revealed a spoiler on the train road trip video anyway. But I wondered if you wanted to kind of share another thing that you didn't mention earlier to do with this character that she goes through.
Well, part of the plot is that she will continually die.
Aha.
A lot. Yeah. Unnecessarily and all the time.
Best kind of character, I think.
It's like the book about Kenny, only Kenny's a chick.
Okay, and Vanessa, you're writing a novel. I found out today.
Yes, I've had the idea for about. This sounds really, really bad, but I get ideas and I just don't implement them right away. Usually I'll get an idea for a novel or story or whatever, and until this one, I'm really gung-ho about this one, but until this one, I never finished any of them. I've finished a few short stories, but I've never finished a full like novel, and it's kind of an erotica.
Kind of an erotica.
Well, I don't want it to be like cheesy or anything like that. I'm kind of trying to have it where it's sexy, but it's not just like sexual, I guess, if that makes any sense. I mean, of course there's sex in it, but I don't want it to be overwhelming.
As long as it's better than 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, trust me, it will be.
This wasn't originally written with a crayon.
James can kind of elaborate on it. I've told them a little bit about it.
She's passed the buck to you, James.
Yeah. I can pass it to you, James. Great.
He's off the hook. He couldn't make it.
I can't remember the exact plot at the moment, but I have read some of her other stuff, and it is very enjoyable.
Enjoyable slash mediocre. That was code word for it. Enjoyable.
Well, if it's well written, then it doesn't matter if it's quote unquote mediocre. You have to manipulate the expletives.
And Tracy, I don't know if you're working on a creative project right now. I know that you're obsessed with Sims.
I don't know. I don't have anything inspiring me at the moment. It's just when something happens, then I have to get on it like right away. But I don't know. Just I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to have to get out there more and maybe find something to inspire me.
Yeah. How much do you think ADD is a help, and how much do you think it's a hindrance?
The help. Okay, see, I can see the whole picture of something. It's like I see people. It's like an either or false dichotomy kind of thing, and sometimes I feel like I can maybe put a different flavor on the subject. The hindrance is actually getting off my ass and doing it. The preparations. I have to do it while I'm thinking about it, or while my brain is actually working. I just never know ahead of time if my brain's going to be working or not.
Yeah. I'm like that with YouTube videos nowadays. There was a time when I uploaded 2 or 3 videos a day, and nowadays it feels like a bit of a chore. I was like,
I have been doing more where I'm not on camera, and I find, not doing the live type, it's so much easier. But somehow I feel like it's cheating because, so some of the best stuff I've done, I haven't even bothered to get out of bed to do it. I hadn't even had breakfast yet, and, I'd get 200 views right away on those, and it's like I feel kind of guilty. I didn't even really try. And then the ones that I really, just spend weeks on working on, and it's like, 38 views, that's it? That's bad.
I make videos where I'm still putting my face on, which is disgraceful. Not everyone in this room got that reference, but, well, I think, James, you've got quite a few kind of creative projects on the boil, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a fair few. Some of them I can talk about, some of them I can't. I'm doing the Debunking Feminist Theory series at the moment. I've done 3 parts to that so far and a clarification to one of them. I've got all sorts of things where I've been like, yeah, this is going to be a 10-part series, and then I never even do part 2. So, I mean, perhaps over this year, get on the case with some of those a bit more.
That's cool. Yes, I have noticed that you tend to upload quite a lot of quite long videos.
Lately it's been ridiculous. Ever since I've had the ability to upload videos over 15 minutes, it's like I've been struggling to keep my videos under half an hour. I've put videos out which are over 3 hours long. For fuck's sake,
Oh god. Yeah. But I know a lot of work goes into putting projects like that together. What exactly did get you into men's rights advocacy?
I'd say probably just seeing a lot of the arguments which I've heard from feminists outside of YouTube, and realising that they're complete and utter horseshit, and first-hand seeing a lot of the problems which men face, and realising that no one is seriously actually sticking up for guys in those situations. Just meant that I've kind of naturally fallen into it.
Okay. Yes. Well, I think we're probably coming up to probably the end of tonight's recording. So, unless anybody has a suggestion for a topic or a question to go around, or people want to ask each other questions. No? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, yes, gotta end with explosions.
End with everyone just end by saying whatever word they feel like. I, of course, will go with Blickle. Queenie goes with explosions. So that leaves 3 of you.
Bonobo.
What was that?
Bonobo.
Bonobo. Yes, I like bonobos.
Bonobo. Do we have 2 votes for Bonobo? This just leaves Vanessa.
I'm going to say sleep.
Sleep.
Because I am tired.
I like sleep too.
But it's 2 a.m. here. You've got no excuse to be sleepy or maybe where you are.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm tired all day.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Need another emotional day. I can be as tired as I want.
Well, I guess that's what happens to normal people. They get tired.
Yeah. I usually don't get tired. So this is what it's like to be normal, huh? You just get tired.
Okay, right. Well, thank you for everybody for coming. This has been the first episode of London After Midnight, and I think it went very well, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. So,
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Meow.